Chapter 11 of Patricia, Brent, Spinster. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Anna Simon. Patricia, Brent, Spinster, by Herbert Jenkins. Chapter 11. The Defection of Mr. Triggs. Well, my dear, how goes it? Patricia looked up from a blue book, from which she was laboriously extracting statistics. Mr. Triggs stood before her, florid and happy. He was wearing a new black and white check suit, a white waistcoat, and a red tie, whilst in his hand he carried a white felt top hat with a black band. "It doesn't go at all well," said Patricia, smiling. "What's the matter, my dear?" he inquired anxiously. "You look fagged out." "Oh, I'm endeavouring to extract information about potatoes from stupid blue books," said Patricia, leaning back in her chair. "Why can't they let potatoes grow without writing about them?" she asked plaintively, screwing up her eyebrows. "He ain't much good, is he?" enquired Mr. Triggs. "Who?" asked Patricia in surprise. "A.B.," said Mr. Triggs, lowering his voice and looking around furtively. "Dull, he strikes me." "Well, you see, Mr. Triggs, he's rising, and you can't rise and be risen at the same time, can you?" Mr. Triggs shook his head doubtfully. "He'll no more rise than your salary, me dear," he said. "Oh, what a gloomy person you are today, Mr. Triggs, and you look like a ray of sunshine." "Do you like it?" enquired Mr. Triggs, smiling happily as he stood back that Patricia might obtain a good view of his new clothes. She now saw that over his black boots he wore a pair of immaculate white spats. "You look just like a duke. But where are you going, and why all this splendour?" asked Patricia. Mr. Triggs beamed upon her. "I'm glad you like it, my dear. I was thinking about you when I ordered it." Patricia looked up and smiled. There was something to her strangely lovable in this old man's simplicity. "I come to take you to the Zoo," he announced. "To the Zoo?" cried Patricia in unfeigned surprise. Mr. Triggs nodded, hugely enjoying the effect of the announcement. "Now run away and get your hat on." "But I couldn't possibly go. I've got heaps of things to do," protested Patricia. "Why, Mrs. Bonsor would be—" "Never you mind about Etty. I'll manage her. She'll—" "I thought I heard your voice, father." Both Patricia and Mr. Triggs started guiltily. They had not heard Mrs. Bonsor enter the room. "Hullo, Etty," said Mr. Triggs, recovering himself. "I just come to take this young lady to the Zoo." "Do I look as bad as all that?" asked Patricia, conscious that her effort was a feeble one. "Don't you worry about your looks, me dear," said Mr. Triggs. "I'll answer for them. Now go and get your hat on." "But I really couldn't, Mr. Triggs," protested Patricia. "I'm afraid it's impossible for Miss Brent to go today, father," said Mrs. Bonsor evenly, but flashing a vindictive look at Patricia. "Why?" enquired Mr. Triggs. "I happen to know," continued Mrs. Bonsor, "that Arthur is very anxious for some work that Miss Brent is doing for him." "What work?" enquired Mr. Triggs. "Oh, something about—" Mrs. Bonsor looked appealingly at Patricia, but Patricia had no intention of helping her out. "Well, if you can't remember what it is, it can't matter much, and I've set my mind on going to the Zoo this afternoon." "Very well, father. If you will wait a few minutes, I will go with you myself." "You!" exclaimed Mr. Triggs in consternation. "You and me at the Zoo? Why, you said once the smell made you sick." "Father! How can you suggest such a thing?" "But you did," persisted Mr. Triggs. "I once remarked that I found the atmosphere a little trying. Won't you come into the morning room, father? There is something I want to speak to you about." "No, I won't," snapped Mr. Triggs like a spoiled child. "I'm going to take Miss Brent to the Zoo." "But Arthur's work, father—" began Mrs. Bonsor. "Very well then, Etty," said Mr. Triggs. "You'd better tell A.B. that I'd like to have a little talk with him tomorrow afternoon at Streatham at 3 o'clock sharp. See? Don't forget." Mr. Triggs was angry, and Mrs. Bonsor realized that she had gone too far. Turning to Patricia, she said, "Do you think it would matter if you put off what you are doing until tomorrow, Miss Brent?" she inquired. "I think I ought to do it now, Mrs. Bonsor," replied Patricia demurely, determined to land Mrs. Bonsor more deeply into the mire if possible. "Well, if you'll run away and get your hat on, I will explain to Mr. Bonsor when he comes in." Patricia looked up. Mrs. Bonsor smiled at her, a frosty movement of her lips from which her eyes seemed to dissociate themselves. During Patricia's absence, Mr. Triggs made it abundantly clear to his daughter that he was displeased with her. "Look 'ere, 'Ettie, if I hear any more of this nonsense," he said, "I'll take on Miss Brent as my own secretary. Then I can take her to the Zoo every afternoon if I want to." A look of fear came into Mrs. Bonsor's eyes. One of the terrors of her life was that some designing woman would get hold of her father and marry him. It did not require a very great effort of the imagination to foresee that the next step would be the cutting off of the allowance Mr. Triggs made his daughter. Suppose Patricia were to marry her father? What a scandal and what a humiliation to be the stepdaughter of her husband's ex-secretary. Mrs. Bonsor determined to capitulate. "I'm very sorry, father, but if you had let us know, we could have arranged it differently. However, everything is all right now." "No, it isn't," said Mr. Triggs peevishly. "You've tried to spoil my afternoon. Fancy you were coming to the Zoo with me. You with your high and mighty ways. The truth is, you're ashamed of your old father, although you ain't ashamed of his money." It was with a feeling of gratitude that Mrs. Bonsor heard Patricia enter the room. "I'm ready, Mr. Triggs," she announced, smiling. Mr. Triggs followed her out of the room without a word. "You'll explain to Mr. Bonsor that I've been kidnapped, will you not?" said Patricia to Mrs. Bonsor, rather from the feeling that something should be said than from any particular desire that Mr. Bonsor should be placated. "Certainly, Miss Brent," replied Mrs. Bonsor, with another unconvincing smile. "I hope you'll have a pleasant afternoon." "Tried to spoil my afternoon, she did," mumbled Mr. Triggs in the tone of a child who has discovered that a playmate has endeavoured to rob him of his marbles. Patricia laughed and, slipping her hand through his arm, said, "Now you mustn't be cross, or else you'll spoil my afternoon, and we're going to have such a jolly time together." Instantly the shadow fell from Mr. Triggs's face, and he turned upon Patricia and beamed, pressing her hand against his side. Then, with another sudden change, he said, "Ettie annoys me when she's like that. But I've given her something to think about," he added, pleased at the recollection of his parting shot. Patricia smiled at him. She never made any endeavour to probe into the domestic difficulties of the Triggs Bonsor menage. "Do you know what I told her?" inquired Mr. Triggs. Patricia shook her head. "I said that if she wasn't careful I'd engage you as my own secretary. That made her sit up." He chuckled at the thought of his master stroke. "But you've got nothing for me to secretary, Mr. Triggs," said Patricia, not quite understanding where the joke came. "Ah, Ettie understands. Ettie knows that every man that ain't married marries his secretary, and she's dead afraid of me marrying." "Am I to take that as a proposal, Mr. Triggs?" asked Patricia demurely. Mr. Triggs chuckled. "Now we'll forget about everything except that we're truants," cried Patricia. "I've earned a holiday, I think. On Sunday and Monday there was Aunt Adelaide, yesterday it was National Importance of Pigs, and—" "Hi, hi! Taxi! Taxi!" Mr. Triggs yelled, dashing forward and dragging Patricia after him. A taxi was crossing a street about 20 yards distance. Mr. Triggs was impulsive in all things. Having secured the taxi and handed Patricia in, he told the man to drive to the Zoo, and sank back with a sigh of pleasure. "Now we're going to have a very happy afternoon, me dear," he said. "Don't you worry about pigs." Arrived at the Zoo, Mr. Triggs made direct for the monkey house. Patricia, a little puzzled at his choice, followed obediently. Arrived there, he walked round the cages, looking keenly at the animals. Finally selecting a little monkey with a blue face, he pointed it out to Patricia. "They was just like that little chap," he said eagerly. "That one over there, see him, eating a nut?" "Yes, I see him," said Patricia. "But who was just like him?" "I'll tell you when we get outside. Now come along." Patricia followed Mr. Triggs, puzzled to account for his strange manner and sudden lack of interest in the monkey house. They walked along for some minutes in silence, then, when they came to a quiet spot, Mr. Triggs turned to Patricia. "You see, me dear," he said, "it was there that I asked her." "That you asked who what?" inquired Patricia, utterly at a loss. "You see, we'd been walking out for nearly a year. I was foreman then. I had tickets given me for the Zoo one Sunday, so I took her. when we was in